Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my September wrap-up. Now in terms of videos I made this month, I participated in the book buddy-a-thon, which I will have a link to my wrap-up video in case you guys are interested in seeing that. I'm really glad I participated in that, partially because it helped introduce me to a new booktuber, but partially also because it made me read a significant portion of books for this month. I didn't read a lot during the second half of the month, so having the book buddy-a-thon at the beginning of the month really helped my numbers out. Another video that I put up was a library book haul, which is where I just showed off some books I got from the library. I wasn't planning on doing one this month, but then every hold I possibly had on hold came in at the exact same time, so I decided to just make that into a video. Then I did a Friday Reads video, which you guys can check out, but my update in there is, well, it's accurate for that day. I'm pretty sure I've finished none of those books that I've mentioned in that video other than the ones that I had already finished up into that point. Then I finally put up my discussion video talking about Moby Dick. I apologize that it took me so long to get that out, but September's just been a month. Then I've also been participating in the Reblog Book Club. Again, in case you guys aren't aware, that is a Tumblr book club where they pick a book about every 3 to 4 months that everyone reads and you just create your own post however you would like. This month we are reading Dumplin' by Julie Murphy, and I haven't finished it yet, but I've been enjoying it so far. So I put up 2 videos on that so far talking about it. Now in terms of books that I finished this month, I did finish a pretty decent amount of books. I'm quite happy with my number, but again, a lot of that has to do with the book buddy-a-thon, so I'm very thankful that I participated in that this month. The first book that I finished was Safekeeping by Jessamine Hope. This is a literary fiction novel, I believe. It follows this young man named Adam who is a drug addict, and he ends up, doing some things in his life that he regrets, and so he goes to Israel to sort of atone for some of his actions. He comes from a Jewish family, and so he goes there to return this family heirloom to the woman that his grandfather always loved. I like this book. I feel like it was a little bit on the longer side. It could have been cut down a little bit, but you are just following these characters who all live in this camp, seeing how they all just have different things that they're dealing with and sort of atoning for. But I like the book overall. I think the characters were all really complex and really interesting, and it was interesting to see how the different stories merged and how the characters interacted with each other and how things changed. There were parts of it I found really frustrating, which can be difficult as a reader, but at the same time I kind of like when books are frustrating, or at least evoke that emotion in me, because it means that things feel slightly more realistic. And it also provides you with some history on Israel and even some Jewish history, which I really liked because I don't know that much about that culture. Then the next book I finished was Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I really like this book, which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because this is a classic for a reason. But this book actually wasn't anything what I thought it was going to be. I think in my head I always compared Zora Neale Hurston with Toni Morrison, but I'd never read anything by her before, and her writing style is nothing like Toni Morrison. If anything, I found her to be extremely readable, and if you are looking for an African-American woman writer to check out, I think that this would actually be a better place to start. There is dialect in here. At least personally, I don't really have an issue with dialect in books, but I felt like the story is more accessible and more understandable than Toni Morrison generally is. But yeah, in this book you are following this young woman named Janie, I believe, as she is just growing up and learning about who she is and who she is in relation to other people, specifically her husbands. This is just a really great book, and I'm actually going to link down below to Ashley from Climb the Stack. She did a really great video on this book, so I'm just going to link to that if you guys are interested in a more in-depth discussion about the ideas and themes in this book. The next book that I finished was A Sense of an Ending, or The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. This is a really interesting book. I feel like it's slightly like a literary fiction mystery because there are characters that you're introduced to at the beginning and you're not really sure where it's going or what they're hinting at or what their relationship is to each other, and it all just sort of comes together in the end. In this story you are following this man named Tony who's in his 40s, I believe, and he is just sort of forced to confront his past and some previous friendships and relationships that he's had that he's kind of pushed away from his mind, and he's forced to kind of confront them because of some recent events that have occurred. I don't want to talk too much about the plot because I think the less you know about it, the better. But this is a pretty short book. I know it's under 300 pages, and I'm pretty sure I read this one in an afternoon during the Book Buddy-a-thon. I definitely recommend this. I really enjoyed it. There is a section in the middle that kind of drags a little bit, but I think because I was reading this for the Book Buddy-a-thon, I didn't feel it quite as much. The next book that I finished was The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Leo Tolstoy. This is a tiny little novella. This is the Melville House Art of the Novella book series, and in this story you are following this judge as he is basically on his deathbed and he is contemplating his life and his choices and his decisions. I really enjoyed it. Russian literature, and particularly Tolstoy, tends to be slightly more on the philosophical side, but I found that there was enough plot and story in this book to balance that out quite well. And I also find that this idea of death and looking back on your life and trying to figure out whether or not you had done the right thing isn't too far off from what most people think about, particularly towards the end of life. So I really enjoyed this a lot. The next book that I finished was Smaller and Smaller Circles by F.H. Batacan. If you watched my library book haul, you would have seen that this was the book that I was most excited about. So I read it almost right away, and I really liked it a lot. It's a mystery novel from the Philippines, and it's considered one of the first Filipino mystery novels like ever. And you are following these two Jesuit priests who are helping solve crimes in the Philippines. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I did record a review of it, so I'm going to be posting that hopefully next week. I definitely recommend it straight off the bat, especially if you like mystery novels. This is a really great debut, and I'm very interested to see what else this author puts out. And then the final two books that I finished this month were both audiobooks. The first one was Between the World and Me by Ta-Nahesis. I always hesitate saying his name. This book has been getting a lot of buzz in the literary world, so there's a very good chance that you've already heard of it. This book is basically a memoir, but it's written as Coates writing to his son, and it just discusses just his life growing up and modern day race relations and the different conflicts that he's had to face internally and externally in regards to who he is and his race and what he wants out of his life and what he wants for his son. It's just a really interesting book, and I think listening to it on audiobook really helped enhance it because Ta-Nehisi Coates reads it himself. I read it in basically a day, maybe over the course of 2 days. And there were parts in the middle where I wasn't really sure where he was going or what he was doing, but in the end I really enjoyed it. I think it's a very important point of view to experience and to understand, especially if you are not a black man living in America. It provides sort of some insight into the way that at least Coates thinks and the things that he wants, you know, from this country and from his life and things like that. It's just really interesting. It very much is stream of consciousness style, so if that's something you're not into, this might not be for you, but again, I do highly recommend it on audiobook. And then the final audiobook was Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling. This is her new memoir that just came out this past month, and again, I listened to it on audio because she narrates the book, and I definitely recommend it like that, especially if you're a fan of Mindy Kaling. The way I feel about this memoir is the way I feel about a lot of comedian memoirs or comedy memoirs. If you like the comedian or the actress or actor, whoever, then you will like the book. The way that I feel about Mindy Kaling is the same way I feel about her books. Some of the essays really hit for me, some of them really did not. This one is definitely on the lighter side, and if you've read Mindy Kaling's other book, you probably will understand the tone and the vibe of this one. There were a couple of essays in here that I really just was not into. It was weird to me because there was an essay in here all about her and BJ Novak's relationship. I don't even know. I guess, yeah, it is a relationship, which I found to be really weird. Maybe it's just because I don't really care, but I know a lot of people speculate about them and things like that, so I guess she addresses it in this book. There's also a chapter where she talks about a person from the White House that she dated, which I thought was really weird. But there are other points in here where she writes basically like a little rom-com TV show type scenario in her book, which I actually really liked, and the title essay is actually pretty fantastic too. So yeah, if you like Mindy Kaling, check it out. If you don't like Mindy Kaling, don't check it out. Also, in case you guys weren't aware, I am an Audible affiliate, so if you guys are interested in trying out Audible and you haven't signed up yet, I do have a link in the description for a 30-day free trial. So if you wanted to read any of those books or listen to any of those books that I mentioned, you can definitely use that to try that out. In terms of what I'm currently reading, like I mentioned, I'm reading Dumpling Violin by Julie Murphy. I should be finishing this up this week because the final video that I'm doing is supposed to go up next Monday. So you guys can follow me on Goodreads if you are interested in seeing my thoughts on that. I'm also reading Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm liking this, but I'm not like super into it, but I also think that's partially just because of where my brain's at right now. I can't deal with literary fiction because I'm tired from work and my brain just isn't functioning enough. So if I get through like a chapter of this a day, I'm happy. Yeah, I do want to keep going with this, but there's a chance I might put this down and read something a little bit lighter until my brain recovers a little bit. So yeah, that was my September. Feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know how your September went. Let me know what your favorite book of the month was. Mine was definitely Smaller and Smaller Circles. Yeah, actually it was Smaller and Smaller Circles. Like, their Eyes Were Watching God was really fantastic, but I think I expected it to be fantastic. Smaller and Smaller Circles just really surprised me, and I think I also was just in the mood for a mystery book. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.